Welcome to those of you watching Villanova and Seton Hall on CBS, the second game of a triple header on CBS here on New Year's Day. And this game going down to the wire between a pair of Big East rivals. And it was a great game all the way to the finish as Villanova outlast Seton Hall 73-67. Colin Gillespie proving why he's one of the best players in the nation. Good to have him back on Jay Wright's team considering what happened last season. 21 points to pace the Wildcats, 4 of 8 from beyond the arc, and Villanova hangs on to win it 73-67. This is the 7th straight meeting where it's been decided by 8 or fewer points between the two Big East rivals. Let's get some instant analysis. Welcome to the co-hosts of the Eye on College Basketball podcast, Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander. Reigning national champion Baylor wins a battle of unbeatens, as that's where we're going to start. Handing Iowa State its first loss of the season. Baylor owns the nation's longest winning streak at 19. For most of the game, Baylor had just 5 free throw attempts. Gary, what stood out to you?
Well, that Baylor went into a truly hostile environment against a fellow undefeated team that had been playing really well at home, on the road, neutral court, everywhere, and they handled it pretty much from start to finish. I know Iowa State, made a run here, made a run there, but after we were about 10 minutes into this game and everybody sort of settled into a certain rhythm, I never felt like Baylor was going to lose the game. They were up double digits at one point. Again, Iowa State took it back to single digits, but then Baylor maintained control, and that is. That's what great basketball teams do. Like when you're on the road and the crowd is against you and things might be turning just a little bit, can you get a timeout or just take a deep breath and get things back under control, get out of there with the victory? Scott Drew's team has been doing that for about 3 years now, better than just about anybody, and today was the latest example. If you were skeptical that Baylor is a legitimate candidate to win back-to-back national titles, and you shouldn't be at this point. But if you were, what happened this afternoon in Ames, Iowa, should move you in the other direction. Not only is Baylor really, really, really good again, Baylor might genuinely be the best team in the country. That number 1 right beside its name certainly suggests that.
It's the 4th time in 4 decades we've had 2 12-0 teams or better face off this deep into the season. So this was a rarity there. And for Baylor to get its win, oh, by the way, Baylor continues to beat top 10 opponents. It's won 9 straight versus top 10 teams and is 19-3 in those last 22 games against ranked opponents there. LJ Cryer doing damage off the bench, I thought was a very productive development for Baylor. And also Baylor defensively so key. Gabe Kalsher, who came in averaging 12 points for Iowa State, was a top 3 player on that team. He had 0 of 2 from the field, 0 points, 6 turnovers, 5 fouls. He fouled out of the game. So I thought what they did defensively was huge. Adam Flagler, he only had 10, but it felt like every bucket that Flagler made came at a big moment to kind of keep Iowa State at arm's length there. So we're now down to 3 undefeated teams left in America. Baylor, Colorado State, USC. Those latter 2 have been on COVID pause as of late, but GP nailed it. I mean, Baylor's the rightful number 1 team in the country, and I think a win like this, I think this is now where we, maybe not we've been talking about it in the Eye on College Basketball podcast, but I think the discussion about Baylor actually having the bona fides to go and win back-to-back national championships becomes a serious conversation because, of course, that's a rare thing. The only teams that have done it in the past 40-plus years are Duke in 91-92 and then Florida in 06-07.
Matt, did you think it was an oversight that Baylor was ranked 8th in the preseason?
I did not think it was an oversight. In fact, I had them lower in my master ranking of every team. But if you see how much Baylor lost, I think that was fair. It was validated. It wasn't just the voters, by the way. The metrics had Baylor lower. Most of them did anyway. So, no, when you didn't know what you were going to get out of LJ Cryer, who was barely a minutes getter a season ago, Adam Flagler was the, number 5 option on this team at best a season ago. And you had guys like, Jonathan John Machachua returning, sure. Matthew Meyer returning, sure. But Baylor was, if anything, given the respect as a preseason top 15 level team, winning the national championship and losing so much production there. So it's easy to say now, and I know you're just teeing up the question for us, Hakeem, but at this point, How we view Baylor as a program overall, I think, has shifted in 2 months' time fairly. We wanted to see how they'd respond after losing guys like Davion Mitchell, Jared Butler, Mark Vital. Those were key players, guys that have been there a while and built something special. So I don't feel as though they were wrongly undervalued heading into the season.
Yeah, Mark Vital on the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad. That's how good of an athlete that guy is. Looking at Baylor's upcoming schedule, Gary, where do you see their next big challenge and perhaps their first loss?
Obviously, in the Big 12, you're going to face big challenges almost every week. Anytime you go on the road in that league, with very few exceptions, you're at risk of getting caught. But, Baylor has already, dominated a Villanova team that I still think is a candidate to win the Big East. They've basically dominated everybody they've played. And they go into Ames, Iowa today, and they beat an Iowa State team that was undefeated. I know only by single digits, but they were up 14 at one point and literally never trailed at any point. So, Baylor's going to have to play at Texas. Baylor's going to have to play at Kansas. Baylor's going to have to play at West Virginia. These are all places where they can take losses. I do not think they're going undefeated. But they're capable of winning anywhere. Again, a Big 12 team going on the road, you're going to face challenges pretty consistently. But I think this is a reasonable point to make. Nobody is better positioned in the entire country to take on those challenges head on than the reigning national champions.
All right, as to your question, Akeem, I'll go. They're going to play Oklahoma. Again, this is as scheduled here.
Yep.
Okay, so if these games are played as scheduled, Oklahoma at home is next. Call that a Baylor win. At TCU, here we go. I'll say that's a Baylor win. Texas Tech at home, Baylor win. Oklahoma State at home. I'm going to say January 18th at West Virginia will be Baylor's first loss. That's where I'm going. On the road, West Virginia, a 2-loss team, wasn't even at full strength with its loss earlier in the day on Saturday. But yeah, mark me down for the Mountaineers. They got a back-to-back there, West Virginia, Oklahoma. At least one of those, probably both those teams will wind up being tournament teams. So good Baylor team, but I don't think it's making it to January 29th at Alabama without a loss. I am always willing and open to be wrong about these things. But yeah, give me Bob Huggins at home in a couple weeks being the first team to knock off the Bears.
Yeah, it's always a tough place to play. All right, from the Big 12 to the Big East, we've got a conference rivalry renewed, a ranked-unranked match between Villanova and Seton Hall. This game going down to the wire.